uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom! Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Bushkin. Today's video is all about the UMP, the UMOP, am I right? If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel and liking the video and doing all that kind of stuff, because to be honest, we've been growing. We've been moving north. We've been doing a whole lot of grinding. We've had daily content now for a couple of weeks. And wouldn't you believe it, people seem to like daily content. So if you like more of this and you like the videos on weapons and the stats and everything, there's a lot more of it coming. Why not give me a little bit of encouragement and put a number on the tick next to your name? The UMP really came to prominence for me in the Chinese pro scene. Back before it got the buff on the live servers, on the global servers, it was buffed in the Chinese Game for Peace variant of Pubg Mobile. And everyone and their mother was running it on the Chinese pro tournaments. And they were super aggressive gameplays with lots of movement and lots of love. And everyone started to take notice of it. And what I found during the course of making all this content, I've been running a lot of different guns to get a lot of different kinds of content so I can make videos of all these different weapons. And I've also gone back and looked at old footage of these guns. And what I've figured out is I quite like the UMP. I like it a little bit more or less than the Vector, depending on what I'm doing with it. But I hate the Uzi. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you why the UMP I think is so popular. And that's because it is the absolutely perfect blend of rate of fire and bullet damage. Now, the general defining characteristic of an SMG is low alpha damage, high rate of fire. Your Vectors, your MP5Ks, your Uzis, your P90s, even your Bison to a degree with 38.8 base damage. They're all very, very high rate of fire guns, very, very low alpha damage. The UMP has 706 rounds a minute. Now that's more than your M416s, that's 638 rounds a minute, more than a lot of the ARs. But it also has 42.8 base damage, which is more than your M416s and is more than a lot of your ARs, your M16A4s, your SCAR-L, your QBZ95, your Honey Badger is 42.9, so it's right there with the Honey Badger. And you see what I mean? You get 35 rounds into this thing, you've got a good, strong alpha strike, but you don't have any real recoil. And at the same time, it's very good for movement gunfights like that. So you can hip fire without having to ADS. If you're using an Uzi, you are having extraordinarily fast rates of fire. So you will quite often go into a gunfight where you pre-fire. And you come around that corner, you're pre-firing, and if there's two people in the room, you're dead. You're just dead because the Uzi's using all of that ammo really, really quickly. The Uzi's rate of fire is a phenomenal 1,304 rounds a minute. That's nearly double the UMP's rate of fire. But the time to kill on an Uzi into a level 2 vest is only 0.276. The time to kill for a UMP is 0.255. That's because the UMP has such a strong alpha strike. So what you have is a gun that can deliver a lot of damage still and do it pretty quickly, but it doesn't do it so quickly that you have to reload for your next target. Now, that's not something you've probably heard talked about before in such obvious terms. Everyone gets the craps with the Uzi when they have a gunfight and they pre-fire with 25 rounds, and by the time they get around the corner, or the Vector doing the same thing. But the UMP is so stable and has so little recoil, but has such a strong alpha strike that it's so much better at this kind of stuff. And it synergizes so very, very well with an M416 or a SCAR-L or an AUG or a QBZ95, because what you end up with is a gun that can do so much of the CQC work and be so successful, and yet it doesn't need to have 500 rounds with it. You can run a UMP and run it with 180 rounds, okay? And that will keep you absolutely tickety-boo. And then you can run 250 rounds of 5s, and there's a loadout that's not going to fill up your backpack. At the same time, the UMP's renowned for its hip fire, and it does have glorious, glorious hip fire. I'm doing a video on the M762 in a sec as well, and another one on the Scar L, and something I've been working on is my hip fire, and the UMP is just absolutely freaking amazing at it. What it doesn't do well, as you can see there, is hit moving targets. This is old UMP footage, right? And I wanted to see if there'd been any changes, and there really hasn't. This gun has performed like this and continues to perform like this. Like, you don't need to ADS with this weapon. It's got such stupidly good hip fire. This is back in the day, you know? This is a couple of years ago, some of these clips. And yet, there's very, very little regarding the UMP that has changed. What it does well, it still does very, very well. What it does poorly, it still does very, very poorly. And that is bullet speed. The UMP's bullet speed is paltry. It's 365 meters a second. Now, that is the worst outside of the Tommy gun and the P90, but we don't really even see the P90. It can take, though, it can take lower rail attachments and the extended magazine. So you can get this up to 35 rounds and put something like a laser sight on it, and you can just hip fire the crap out of this thing all the time. And you don't need to worry about bullet speed in close quarters combat. It also has that explosive damage. Well, they call it explosive damage, but what we're basically talking about there is limb damage. You're talking about limb damage, and when you have good limb damage, then you're winning, because if you're hip firing, you don't need to hit center mass on a target all the time, and the UMP is going to be doing full salvos. You can hit targets that are dead straight like that, okay? But you see how long a round takes to get there. That's because your bullet speed is so low. And if you hold that angle to keep firing on peak fights with UMPs, then what you end up doing is getting killed. You can't hard peek with this gun. If you hard peek or try and use it in peak fights, you're going to get snapped. And you're going to get snapped hard, and you're going to deserve it. The UMP excels in close quarters where you're jumping around, hip firing, doing your thing, and just basically using your movement. Because like all the other SMGs, it offers no movement penalty. I mean, I've mentioned this in multiple videos over the years, and a lot of people still don't realize that when you run, say, a DMR like a Mark 14 or an AR, you run slower. When you run a UMP, you have a 0 movement penalty. So you actually get full movement speed, and it's just a really good deal. This is what I'm talking about. I'll tell you something else too right now. The Scar L for me has been absolutely rocking the last wee while, and I'm going to do a video on that very shortly. And I think playing with Scar L UMP is one of the best loadouts in the game right now. Like, it is legitimately good. I think it's a loadout that is borderline crate level. It's absolutely sensational. Oh, where was I? I got so carried away talking about the Scar L. Anyway, yeah, your movement's excellent with it. And for an old bloke like me, that's really, really important. If you have ideas too on these videos that you want to see come true, I'm doing all kinds of videos that people have asked for at the moment. Make sure you leave a comment below to let us know. And if not me, one of the mods will pick it up and pass it along. And that's when the magic happens. Like, getting videos made that you guys really want to see made is what I'm all about. We're going to be talking a lot about ADS speed in a couple of these AR videos as well, because ADSing is really underrated with certain guns. I don't want to spoil everything that's coming up, but there's a lot to do with the M762 and the Scar L and everything else that I think is going to be incredibly important. The Scar, as I said, the Scar is just breaking at the moment. It's breaking things for me. But the UMP, fantastic weapon. I would probably, if necessary, if I had to rate them 1 through, UMP would probably be number 1, just because it's the right kind of blend. And unlike the other big heavy alpha gun that runs as an SMG, the Tommy gun, it can mount 3Xs and 4Xs, and it can mount angle grips or laser sights, and it can mount a compensator, and all those things make it a very, very cool proposition. So look out for the Scar L video, look out for the M762 video that's coming up. All these things are going to come up hot and heavy for you, and you'll be able to, figure out what you want out of life here on the Bushka channel. I am doing another live stream. I'm live streaming every Sunday in A time in the afternoon, and I'm live streaming most Thursdays in A time in the afternoon. But that second one is not a guarantee. And if you want to join in on the live streams and play in the squads, just join patreon.com. Lots of people did it today, and we got more in. So do that. Patreon.com/thebushka. Look after yourself. Stay safe in the battlefield. And until next time, bye for now.